Hey everyone, I'm Bren. Welcome to this week's garden update. Located in New South Wales, Australia. It's an absolute gorgeous spring day here. So I thought, why not take a look around the raised garden beds and see what's growing? It's quite a big transformation compared to last week. So please just sit back, relax for a few minutes, and let's get into it now. This is where I'm at with the raised garden bed area. I've spent about an hour a day out here and I finally feel like it's in a more manageable state. The beds have been weeded and mulched, more plants have gone in and the footpaths have been cleared. For a quick fix, all I did was literally mowed over the grass that was growing in here. I'd much rather the pathways be covered in bark, but I don't have the time to do that. So I think for the moment, I'm just going to have to live with it looking like this. What I usually do is just put down a layer of cardboard and then that will just kill off anything underneath, and then you can place the bark on top. Now, I could come in here and dig up all of the grass, but that's a lot more time consuming, and wherever I can take a little shortcut, I am all up for it. Like for example, in this little nook I placed down cardboard. It was a long time ago now. This space was getting so weedy, everything was growing into the beds and it was doing my head in, so I placed down the cardboard and it's just really suppressed any weeds. Most of this green that you see on top of the cardboard are weeds that I pulled out of the garden beds on either side and just dumped here. Some of them still manage to creep up along the side, but if you just pull this up here, oh, what's that little insect? Oh, I love finding little unusual things. Is that a centipede? Maybe it's not that unusual. If I pull up here, you will see underneath it's done its job. The grass and any unwanted seedlings have just gone brown and died back. Oh, and all the worms, look at all that life. Where are you guys off to? They're trying to hide. This is what I mean by weeds coming out the side. This little sneaky thing is still growing. Its roots are over here, so well under the cardboard, and it's continued to grow, poking up the side. This plant is called Turkey rhubarb. It's a noxious weed in my area. It's a very vigorous plant. I've just pulled this stem and look at it. They really sprawl everywhere and they climb over plants. And the issue is, if this makes its way into bushland, it can smother out any of the native flora. Turkey rhubarb spreads by these tubers which grow underground. I've just dug this one up, but yesterday I got a whopper. Here it is. It's almost the size of a tennis ball. So it's best to dig these up rather than pulling off the stems above ground, because left untouched, even though you've removed the top part, they are going to continue to spread and re-sprout, and you'll end up in the same situation, if not worse. Well, it will be worse every season. I must have laid down this cardboard in a rush because I never ended up taking off the plastic, which is something I don't want to have in the garden. Off you get. You might have also noticed that there's a lot of white fluffy stuff on the dead grass and on some of the cardboard here, and that's a fungus. I believe it's a good fungus that's helping everything to decompose underneath here, including the cardboard itself. It's like it's snowing where I'm standing. I'm getting a bunch of these petals falling on my shoulders. They're falling off these apple trees, which have been blooming for a couple of weeks now. There's no bees on them today. Hopefully most of these flowers have been pollinated and soon we'll have little baby apples forming. The slightest breeze now is making these petals fall off. I forgot last year that I had lilies growing in this bed, and of course the bulbs lie dormant underground during winter and they've sprouted back again, so they're growing amongst the kale and I think it's really pretty. I like the contrast of this deeper, darker colour compared to the more lime coloured foliage, and I'm looking forward to seeing these in bloom. I love lily flowers. Now, usually in the past with my cut flower business, I would grow lilies to add into bouquets, But this year I've decided not to do that. I'm just going to grow them to enjoy here in the garden, because I noticed with the sales, a lot of the bouquets that had the lilies in them, and from comments that you guys have made and I've heard from other people, like their feedback, a lot of people don't like the lilies because they are poisonous to cats and they can stain your clothes. So this year I will be growing them just for fun, probably for garden posies that I bring inside the house because we don't have any cats. So if I have some lily plants popping up here or there around the garden, like what's happening here in this raised bed, well, you know what? That's just fine with me. This bee is enjoying foraging in this Icelandic poppy flower. I was never expecting to get one in this colour, which is like a very light peach. I notice at this time of year in mid-spring, a lot of my native plants begin to flower, particularly the bottle brush, which I have a few different colours growing in the garden, but I'm really loving this one, a hot pink. I put it in as a much smaller plant a few years back, and each year after it blooms I give it a prune. I think I may have missed 1 year, but I find pruning these plants really makes them more compact and they put on a really gorgeous display. I got these 2 raised garden beds finished off this week. Well, not quite, because at the back of this bed I have left a space to direct sow some sunflowers. Now, I purchased a few packets, it must have been maybe last year, and I never got around to sowing them. And these are multi-branching varieties which have absolutely gorgeous blooms. And yeah, I want to give them a try and see how they go in here. Because this bed is at the front of this area, I wanted to make it quite colourful, so I put in a lot of flowering plants. Like here, these are some overwintered black-eyed Susans, which I now grow every year. I did have a third plant, but it didn't look strong enough to place in here, so instead I put in some marigolds, and then back there's some blue salvias. At the front or side of the bed, all of these seedlings are actually dill plants which have self-seeded from last year. The blooms on them are absolutely magnificent, and I thought because they do get quite tall, they can come up here, and if I need to support them by using this archway, I will just tie them up. And then I also have here some bean plants. I believe these are the runner beans. I did have a whole row of them on this side and the other side, but not all the plants survived. So I may just pop a few more seeds in here to fill out the space. And then with the others, I'm just going to encourage them to wrap around this trellis. In the other bed across the way, as I think I just mentioned, I have some more bean plants here to grow on the other side. And then just to mirror that bed slightly, I do have more marigolds. But then at the back, I put in these 4 plants, 2 chili plants, 2 tomato plants at the back, which I purchased when they were quite mature. And what did I put along the front? Oh, I think they're like little daisy seedlings, which do well in spring and early summer, but then they die off with the heat. They're only an annual, so I'll be able to replace them maybe with some petunias, something like that, maybe that can sprawl over the edge of the bed. I haven't finished sorting out this bed, which contains 4 overwintered capsicum and chili plants. And then at the back I have so many seedlings, and they are another noxious weed from a privet which is growing in my neighbour's garden, and the seeds go everywhere into my garden, which is a bit annoying, but I just have to pull them up in a little. The best thing to do is get these when they're small, otherwise the roots can really get stuck in there and they are much more difficult to dislodge from the soil. Like the sunflowers, once I get this soil topped up and the bed clear of the weeds, I'm going to actually direct sow seeds in here too. I'm going to put in some Lebanese cucumbers which grow well. I had them growing in the front garden last year, but I thought if I put them in here, it'll kind of like block out this fence which needs to be replaced. Look at the state of it. I'm excited to see how this bed turns out. So I have some dahlia tubers growing on either end of the bed, and then in the center here I have loads of gladiolus which I did purchase heap of different variety, lots of different colours. I got them in the sale, so I only bought them a few weeks ago, and that's a bit of a tip when it comes to purchasing lily bulbs and gladiolus bulbs. They go on sale at quite heavy discounts towards the end of season. Now the thing is, you don't have as much of a range to choose from, so it's really whatever's left over, but it does save some money, and it still gives you those beautiful flowers that are on those really long stems like a sword. Oh, magnificent. And they do really well in arrangements, although I did notice last year that I had some growing out the front and they got really bad pest damage, but that was the only year that happened, so hopefully this year they will do well. And then with some of the dahlias, or quite a number of them, I mentioned last week that I dug them out because the back garden got disturbed for a trench, but some of the tubers I did leave in the spots, like this one here, and you can see they are starting to shoot back, which is very exciting. Don't ask me what the variety of that one is because I can't even remember. And then there's more over here too, and I actually was debating whether I should split this one up and maybe that one there too, because they have got quite large, and after a few years with dahlia tubers it is best to divide them because they can become stunted in my experience. So I may end up just chopping that clump in half, but this one looks fine. Last year I extended this raised garden bed area by adding 4 more to the left of this main section, and I do have 2 planted up at the moment, but there are still 6 more that need to be sorted out. I did make a start on these 2 beds during the week where dahlia tubers lie dormant underground. Now it looks all right, but there are quite a number of grass weeds popping up, which I'll have to dig out, and then obviously I need to replenish the soil. It's dropped quite a bit, as you can see here from this corner. Did notice yesterday that in these 2 beds some of the brassica plants are starting to bolt, go to flower. Like, I'm a bit disappointed, for example, here with this cabbage plant where I have 2 growing. So one of them's still looking like it's forming its main head, but if we take a closer look at this one, you'll see that it's starting to produce flower buds. This one unfortunately will never form a head, it's past that stage. However, the great thing about cabbage is I can still use the foliage here on the side. I may end up just harvesting this and then, you know, making the most of what it has produced already, and then just putting something else in there, something fresh for summertime. If this plant is bolting, it doesn't look great for the one beside it. So I don't know, I might just leave that in there and see what happens, but it looks like it's starting to kind of spread out a bit. It isn't getting very tight there in the center. I harvested the main stem of the purple sprouting broccoli, and as you can see, I'm getting some more side shoots. Usually the main stem is the largest and the side shoots are slightly smaller, and all I need to do is pick these off, and as the plant grows I'll get some more shoots popping up that we can eat. The one beside it is ready to harvest too. In fact, some of the buds on top look like they're beginning to open, so I probably should have picked this a little while ago. And all you do is you come down, snap off this center piece, and then there will be more shoots coming up from the side like on that other one that I just showed you. Purple sprouting broccoli reminds me of my husband's grandma, my kid's great grandma called Maud. She passed away this year. She lived a long life to 102, and she was an amazing gardener. I remember Maud would say to me, I understand why people would buy the main head of the broccoli, it's delicious, but these side shoots aren't the best. Probably better off given to the chickens. I don't mind growing these because I find them much easier to harvest than those large broccoli heads. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love growing broccoli like that. However, they are a little bit more time consuming when it comes to picking. You usually need a knife and a bit of elbow grease. But with these, it's very quick. You can just walk by and break off a few of those side shoots with your bare hands. Well, that's about it for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for watching until the end. And don't forget, if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you again next Friday.